Hold up, Diddy. Hit him with part two, son.
We are so happy to be here. You saw us in the last episode. Same folks back. I'm Lindsey.
RJ.
Resheida. And this episode, we're going to be talking about a subject that I don't think anybody ever talks about, and I think it's really important to discuss. We always talk about daddy issues with women and how that manifests and how women are doing certain things or behaving certain ways because of their father issues, but nobody talks about mommy issues and how that manifests in men's behavior, their expectations of women and relationships. And so I think this would be a great forum for us to talk to these two men about how their relationship with their mother has manifested in their romantic relationships with women.
That is such a great question. I don't know. For me, so I've been on, I do believe in therapy. I believe in therapy and going and talk to somebody. I know some of y'all feel like, in the black church we typically don't, but we should, because most of us is crazy, and you need somebody that's professionally trained to help you process your crazy. And so, in that processing, if you had asked me prior to therapy, I would have said it doesn't impact at all. But I am realizing to some degree it does.
How so?
So just in the way, you see your mother handle things, the way you see your mother engage with conflict, the way your mother handles you. If you have siblings, the difference between how your mother may deal with you compared to your sibling, all those things kind of imprint on you and you don't always even notice it, So for me, one of the things that, I'm realizing is that my mother has always been a very strong woman. Hey, Mom, if you watch this, she probably won't watch this because she don't know this even exists.
She knew, I told her.
No, thanks. She's always been a very strong woman, resilient woman, which most black women have had to be. I think the downside of that has been my mother, probably in an attempt to protect me and my brother from certain things, you didn't always get the full range of her emotions. You get certain emotions that are tied to parenting.
Yes, that's so good, because I think that it's always this concept or this idea that women are strong or black women are strong from the child's point of view. Sure, you don't know who she was with your daddy. And you expect that you get into a relationship with a woman and you think that she should relate to you in the way that your mother related to you. And it's like, hey, I'm not your mother. I'm not going to be strong all the time.
I ain't been. Well, the strong part, yes, you do.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, you're going to see some different emotions from me that you maybe didn't see from your mom. And it doesn't mean that your mom didn't have them. It's just that they weren't reserved for you.
That's good, man. She be a therapist.
She is a therapist. She's mine.
Without the degree. No, thank you. What about you, RJ? Do you feel like your relationship? Because, well, first of all, we started this conversation off camera, and RJ said he don't have those issues. He has that doesn't affect. He's a mama's boy, so everything's perfect. And I said, boom, you the culprit. You the one. The mama's.
That's why we having this conversation. Because
but see, people take that term "mama's boy" as a negative thing, and I don't. And I think I've shared this with y'all. I grew up in the Robert Taylor Projects, right? My mom had 5 kids. My father was there, but we all kind of clung to my mom because she was the loving, the nurturer. We didn't have nothing. But I did see how strong she was. She went without. She didn't complain. We did see tears at times. So there was a time when her, parents get into it. She tell him to leave. He cried to the kids, and we like, Mom, can Daddy come back home? All those things. Can he come back home? And so it was one of those things. But
he did wrong.
but he used us
for putting them kids in that
He used
situation.
us. Now imagine, okay, sidebar. Imagine living on the 12th floor in the projects, 12th floor. He downstairs yelling up, "Hey, I love y'all," crazy. Everybody
So it's a whole scene.
Yeah, whole scene,
It's a whole scene.
So it's one of those things. But in that, as an adult, and to your point about therapy, I wouldn't have believed that my relationship with my mom growing up would have any impact on me as an adult. But when I went to therapy, I did realize something with my mom, my aunts, my grandmother. All of them were in relationships with abusive men, whether it was physical, verbal, emotionally, and that made them love those men even more. And they stayed and they fought through it. And some of them got to the point, even my mom, where it was just like, enough is enough, and she ended it. But for me, that showed me that they equated abuse with love. That's what love was for them. And so even in relationships, because women are abusive now, can be. So just putting that out there. Yeah.
You don't think women can be abusive?
Some physical, but emotionally and verbally.
And physically. There
And
are
so-
a lot of
and
women
it
that
just-
will fight you.
That's a whole nother concept.
Yeah,
But go-
and it just makes you. What I saw in one particular relationship, it made me want to love her even more. And it wasn't until after, but the relationship was long gone. But I didn't realize until after therapy that's what I was equating to. The therapist made me look back on the love that I saw growing up as a child, and so there is
are you drawn to damaged women?
No, not at all. But I'm just saying that was just one example of me saying how the love I saw growing up did have a clear reflection on how I was as an adult in a relationship.
But see, the way that I look at like mommy issues that manifest in men is like the what Darryl pointed out with the always strong, always have an answer, never really too weak or whatever. But then I also think of it like I say that I feel like women with sons need a man, because if they don't have one, I think that their son ends up playing that role for them. And they kind of feel in, and it's even better because he's your son. So he like loves you and is completely devoted to you. And women, I think we have an innate ability to manipulate emotionally, and I think that women can do that with their sons if they're not careful.
I agree, and you see it a lot. And when those boys grow up to be men and they find women and they want to get married, the moms always hate the woman, and she will do certain things to sabotage those relationships.
I'm like,
it's because she wants that. She still wants that companionship from her son. It's not intentional. It just happened to be that way as they were growing up. That he became the man of the house. They did basically everything but have sex. Hopefully they didn't have sex because that'd be nasty.
God.
That's a
But-
whole
But I'm just saying.
Hard.
I'm just saying. But that's a very valid point, and we don't really look at it, and you wonder why these women hate the daughter-in-laws, because there's this envious spirit that they have because they no longer have that companionship from their sons.
So is it the responsibility of the son at that point to say something to mom?
Yes.
Or is it?
Yeah,
I
but
think so.
Cause I feel like the mom
the
should
woman
be
can't
mature
say
enough to
nothing.
be like.
But that's the problem. That's an assumption that the mother would be mature enough. Because
Or
I even see it
they can recognize it.
right, because
Yeah.
it's just been you guys' dynamic. I even see it like with from a provision standpoint, that now somehow this boy needs to work really hard so he can take care of his mama. Like that's a very black household ideal.
I have that
Whereas
ideal.
but if your mom and dad are together and your dad is the provider, the son doesn't feel like he needs to grow up to do that.
Yeah.
Because there is a man there. And I also think that like it's important for kids to see women's duality. Like, and I'm talking more about black women and black households. My mom, I didn't get to see her be a woman because there was no man in the house. And I think men naturally create a space for a woman to be feminine. All I saw was a provider. That's all she could be, because she didn't have that help and she didn't have any masculine energy there to allow her to be soft or to be, sweet, or to be, that kind of magic that feminine energy brings. And I think that she was always working or cooking or fixing or figuring out. And I think that in a lot of black households, we miss out on seeing the duality of a woman. seeing your mama with her husband and what that brings out of her and the way that she relates to him. And so I think like that's another part of the mommy issues I feel like, women and men have, is that they don't see the duality of a woman and it's always together. Mm-hmm. So when you weak or you are, emotional, it's like, oh.
That's a very good point, because that's why, a lot of people, especially here in Chicago, women are so hard. Like, and it took a friend of mine to come here to visit to point it out. I'd be like, where are the dainty feminine women? It's like they're so hard and stern and tough. Like they put cigarettes out on you, stuff like that. They burn cigarettes. But that's a very valid point, because they have to be the fixer, the nurturer, the cook, and all of that, the provider. And it's like you don't see them behind closed doors crying and they don't get a chance to be vulnerable.
I also feel like it puts a lot of pressure on women who want to get married to be that. Because sometimes to be all of that stuff that your mama was to you. Because sometimes I'm like, I'm not somebody that is like, I have a problem. Come up with every angle, every way that we can fix this. I'm like, okay, well, give me a second, I gotta think. But I do feel that pressure sometimes. Like I feel like the women that get married basically can do that. Can be like, I solve every problem for you. I cook, I clean, I do just like your mama was. And I sometimes have to check myself, like, why do I feel I have to be? And I feel like I have to be strong enough that if you hurt me, I can forgive you. Mm-hmm. And all of the stuff that your mama is, I do feel the pressure of having to be.
I see, for me, the complaint I've gotten most in any relationship I've ever been in is that I am so nonchalant. I don't ask for anything. I'm like, I don't need you to cook, I don't need you to do nothing, just let me be. And part of it, though, is because, think about it, though, is whenever there was a need financially or something to be done, my father went and got another job. My mother she was never doing all of these roles. Mm-hmm. I think one year, probably the best year I ever had in school was the year my mother took off work to stay home to make sure me and my brother had a smooth transition to the school, and my father worked like 2 jobs. So in my head, I just figure it out. There's nothing in me that looks at a woman and thinks, help me figure it out, which can also be an issue because, you want teamwork and stuff like that. I'm like, I'll figure it out, let me be, and so in that way, my relationship with my mother, growing up with her impacted me, but she was a different woman, to your point, because my father also was in the household. I seen them jokers have arguments. I think they had one argument that lasted 2 years. But I saw them work through it. So I always saw her, and this might make some sense, I always saw her through the lens of him. So it impacts me differently in terms of those types of relationships, and
And you had another lens in the house to see it through. If it was just your mama and the kids, all you see is that.
Yeah, and I don't know what woman she would be if it had to be just her. Yeah. And me and my brother. So I can't imagine.
And I think a spinoff of to continue on with the mommy issues, I also have a theory about men who don't like to date black women. And
Oh Lord! How you switch to?
Listen,
go ahead, tell me.
I think that at the core of that sometimes is mommy issues, in that their mother was a tyrant, and their mother.
So you think a black mama turned a black boy off to black women?
No, I don't think that it's on her fully like it's fully her responsibility. But I do think that if you grew up and your mother was loving and soft and like nurturing and caring, you wouldn't wake up and say you wouldn't grow up and say I don't date black women. I think that a lot of times, and I think the difficulty is, as a boy, you're always gonna love your mama, so you ain't gonna say that she did wrong. Mm-hmm. You aren't gonna admit that because that's tough to come to grips with. But a lot of people grow up with a screaming ass mama.
Well, would you just be looking for a kind, gentle woman?
Not if your picture of a woman, of a black woman, is that. AKA your mama, your aunties, and your grandma all yellow.
Right.
And there are some people that grow up in families where the women are always upset.
Oh yeah.
When your mama come home, ain't no peace. Because when mama come home, it's just terror.
My family is mostly black women, unmarried. They loud, they controlling. Oh God, I do not tell them about this episode. They're beautiful. But oh my God, and that even affected. I was like, I want to get married because I don't want to get this old and have the house, have the career, and no man, and now I end up looking like that, kind of bitter a little bit. And so I can see how that would translate to men. Like, ooh, if this is the picture, I don't want that. You know?
Yeah, I think, but there's some truth to that point. But I don't think it's primarily that. I think it has a lot. I think it's based on the individual. Like you could have some guy all his life dated black women, whether through high school, college, and early 30s. And it ended bad, or because black women are a lot to deal with. Y'all tough.
Wait a minute.
Y'all tough. Y'all.
Oh, Lindsey, you might have a point.
No. You just said two different opposing.
Okay.
I had to Google
Here,
Michael B. Jordan's mama.
She's very sweet. I met her.
So
She also super light.
here,
She
yeah.
is like.
What I'm saying
And
is,
he got a really good husband, and he's dark skinned.
based on society, some of y'all have adopted this, and we talked about this on another episode about being so strong and stern and all of this stuff, and sometimes that translate into this nagging, and nobody wants to hear that all the time, nagging and complaining. And
But does that go back to the mommy
and
issue?
but
Of
it
all you
might
saw was
because
figuring it out, mama. It wasn't. You didn't get to women as a black woman. I didn't learn that there was power in being feminine and soft. I didn't get that because our picture of strength is figuring it out, or it's a male. It's masculine. It's going to work. It's working hard. It's bringing home the money. It's make sure
So
everything's
how do
taken
you
care of.
fix it, Lindsey?
I think it's awareness. I think that as I've grown, I've come to learn. I would attribute that a lot to Resheida because I think that Resheida and I are very similar in our thinking, and we're both equally as strong women. However, I'm more masculine strength, aggressive, and that's the way I saw that it should be. Resheida is so good at embodying femininity and like soft that you think you are getting your way with her, but she's always getting her way. But there is a strength in that femininity that I never learned was real. I always saw soft as weak, and they gonna run over you. And then Resheida has shown me that, oh no, you can speak sweet, you can speak soft, and everybody will do what you want. And I didn't get that. And not to say that you should use it in a manipulative way, but I just think there is power in being feminine. But if you didn't see that, then all you know is hard. And so I think it's that awareness and learning like, oh, I can do more, I can get more, I can have the life that I want from kind of accepting the power that I have as a woman versus me trying to match the power of a man.
Tell a man that you're out with, or ask him flat out, yo, what's your relationship with your mom like?
Yeah, for sure. You gotta ascertain what's going on with that mama. And it's not just enough for him to be like, oh, I love my mama. Right, but how? What does that look like? Because I mean, and it's important.
No, it's a good point.
It's important because I think that, and I also think things are different for everybody. Like for me, I have a very independent mom. My mama has never ever needed anything from me, money, emotional support, nothing. I talked to a man for a little while. His mama needed everything. It was like she knew his payday, and she would call and be like, I ain't heard from you, you coming back? And he's like, Mama, I got bills too. I said, I could not be with him because I don't understand that dynamic. And we had just started dating. I was already didn't like his mama. I was like, oh, heck no. Me and your mama would come to blows.
Let me clarify something when you talked about the men who don't date the black women. So what I was trying to say
we did cut you off.
Was that a man wants to be the head of the house, right? Or to lead the relationship and be dominant. And a lot of women have a problem with submitting to that man for whatever reason. And some rightfully so, right? So, and a lot of black men look at white women or women of other nationalities as less like they will submit and they can control those situations And so let me go over here where it's a little bit more easy, and I got to put in all this work and effort, because all this black woman over here gonna do is nag me and try to fight me, belittle me, and be the man of the house when I'm the man of the house. So that's the point I was trying to make.
And guess what?
Shallow.
No,
But it's reality.
No. It's not even shadow. It's an illusion. It is exactly what I said. Those white women learned the power of femininity. You ain't going into that house and not having no trouble with that woman.
I didn't say that.
She just knows a different approach. She's still getting what she wants, but she knows how to do it, and that's what I think black women end up being at a disadvantage, because they didn't get to see that in their house, so they don't know how to do that. But I mean, why women are women? Women are crazy. Women gonna want what they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. Please, it don't matter if you go to Mexican woman, Puerto Rican woman, black woman. They're still going to want certain things, and they're going to try and go about getting them. The approach is what varies. That's the only difference. You're not gonna go find an easier life. She may do it a little bit sweeter, but she's still asking for something every day. You know, so I don't think that I think that's the difference, and that's why I feel like it's hard.
And see, my mother wasn't. I didn't experience her asking and requesting things of my father consistently. She took that year or so off for me and my brother, and then my mama went to work, and she worked until she retired at 25. And so I never saw her doing that. I saw them manage things together. And so that has also impacted me in a way that I don't do well with needy women. I don't.
See,
I
that
struggle.
could be, you don't know whether she was needy. Needy isn't
But that's
monetary.
what I'm saying. That's what I kept saying.
You
what
don't
I
get to
saw.
see-
I don't
see it.
know if that other side of her exists or how it exists. You know what I'm saying? Like, so all I know is what I saw.
Why didn't you ask your father
Ask him what?
how he related to your mother?
We
I
don't
just saw
ask
this
those
thing,
questions.
but I just
Well,
saw
that's
this
another
thing
problem.
with
That's a whole other.
Right.
Well.
I just saw this thing with TD Jakes where he was talking about, he was like, it's much more fun for a father to be a father to his adult son, because then I get to really share my story with you rather than teach you. And it's like, y'all probably need to talk to your father about how he related to the mother, so that you can know how to relate to the mother.
Or to not make the same mistakes, because my dad has always been the villain. And finally, as an adult, my mama finally was like, you know what? The truth is. Yeah, she was just like, she thought she was top tier, and she thought my daddy should always feel very, very lucky to have her. And she admitted that. And guess what? As soon as she said it, that's exactly the way I always felt in any relationship. And she was like, you got to be careful of that, because he was a good man. And I was so caught up in thinking that I was the prize and that I didn't, and he needed to feel needed. And I just didn't get it. And it wasn't until she explained it, and I also see, that she was still single. I'm like, I got to get a grip. I got to figure that out.
Right.
Because I don't want to look up and be by myself because I'm thinking I'm superior. And so I do think that having those conversations with your parents are so important, because they kind of show you like, hey, you're more like me than you realize.
Yeah, but I also think T.D. Jakes is the best example because he's a preacher and he's a pastor. That side of you, speaking as a pastor and preacher, that side of you is wired differently. Oh, my bad, y'all. We're going to have edit that out. It's wired differently, and so as a pastor and preacher, you are more aware of these moments to pour into. I don't know. I could be wrong, and we can ask some of the other guys as we go on through this season to come on the show, and maybe RJ can speak to it a little bit too. I don't know many black men that there's this moment where you share these things. My father, great father, always provided, always present. But he also, ironically similar to my pastor. They're like wartime consiglieres. My father, if I'm in crisis or something's going on, he'll give input. He's really quiet. My father very rarely talks. So he'll say something when there's something to be said. But outside of that, there's no, I would have to, and if I ask him, he'll answer. But I I never thought to be like, let me ask.
You should
know,
maybe do that.
You should.
That might be
Do
very
what should I
helpful.
do?
This story.
Ask.
You should. Y'all two
I mean,
talk.
just ask like where their shortcomings were in marriage and relationship and life
Oh,
and
he told me
parenting.
that part.
Oh, okay.
He
Well,
told me
then that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like getting
But he
insight
told me
on that.
after they had a major argument. See what I'm saying? So it's in those
Something
moments.
has to happen.
Something has to happen, he'll say. But it wasn't. And that was younger. I might have been 16, 17, something like that. So that's a good point. Maybe we should do that, RJ. We should get our mothers and fathers.
Nah, not mine.
Well, yours was yelling at
I can't believe your daddy used
No,
y'all.
my father. But here's the thing.
them.
I think my parents split probably when my mom had enough when I was probably 19, and
That's a long
now I'm
time.
41, and they're still around each other. With my siblings' house with the grandkids, and I think in the back of my father's mind he still has this thought or hope that one day we gonna get back.
Still?
I think so,
I can see that.
but I think he's a little delusional. But
I could. Because I think that, I feel like with my mom and dad, my dad, when I was grown, and he was like, man, I really, it was funny because he had a whole nother life. He got remarried and had a bunch of kids. And I remember he was talking about his kids. He was like, I love my kids, I love my kids. He's like, but man, I'm only supposed to have two. I'm supposed to have that one family, and y'all supposed to be going off to college, and me and my wife supposed to be, hanging out, going on vacation. He's like, but my decisions derailed that, and I messed that up, and he still felt that loss. So I could see it still being like, man, because I feel like if my daddy hadn't been remarried, he definitely would have been trying to get with my mama and get back with her. So. Oh, I got to close too. Thank you for tuning in. Why I gotta close?
Why not? Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode 1320 Stuff. Those of you that are disconnected from your fathers and your mothers, we would encourage you today. Take a chance, reach out to them, reconnect. Those of you that have a relationship with them, might be a good time to ask them the hard questions, especially if you find yourself stuck at a place in life. And so that's all we're here for. Have conversations, stimulate thoughts, so you guys can begin to think deeper about some other things in life, even outside of the church, but yet connected to God. So we love you much. Catch you on the next episode. Peace.